Hello everyone, welcome back to the Smite Comprehensive Guide to Sylvanus. This is a continuation of the request by Anisu, I believe it's pronounced. Again, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. Now, this is going to be in quite a bit of a different format, and this is partially related to why I haven't uploaded in a little while. My recording software really had a major issue. This is the recording in which I realized that we had a major issue, specifically with the sound. The sound just doesn't work. It sounds like something you would hear while you're reading a Junji Ito manga, uh, as a reference. So I've muted this, first off. Future versions of this format won't be muted, but this one is because it sounds like something out of your least favorite horror movie. But more to the point, it was still such excellent gameplay, and I still wanted to use the gameplay, and it occurred to me, why not speak over my own gameplay and talk about what I was thinking at the time of that decision? Because, quite frankly, I have received, and quite validly I must say, the criticism that my conversation during matches tends to be a little rushed because I'm either distracted by what's going on screen, or I'm focusing, or I deviate from my original point, all kinds of things. But if I'm talking over a recording of my gameplay like this, I can pause the gameplay and talk about my point and then continue on. So this is going to be a new format I'll try for a little while. Test it out, see how you like it. If you do like it, let me know. If you don't like it, also let me know. This is specifically to make things a little bit easier to understand for people, to make things clearer and more, just a better video in terms of explaining what's going on in my head and why I'm making these decisions. So if you find this more effective for that, please let me know. If you find it less effective for that, also please let me know. So this is actually, I've started at the loading screen because this is where I start to think about the match, because at this point I know what both team comps are going to be. Okay? I can, for example, see She-Blanca and Arachne as auto attackers. So as a Sylvanus support, which is what this game is going to be focused on, I know that War Flag is going to be a really great pickup. It's going to help She-Blanca, it's going to help Arachne, and it will probably help Loki as well, since Loki actually has pretty good auto attacks considering his passive. The other thing I'm thinking about is the enemy team composition, and I see an interesting anomaly. Two hunters. Now, I also want to walk you through not only my correct assumptions, but my incorrect assumptions. So I want to talk about this. At this point, I am assuming either Scotty or Habois is the jungler, and whichever one isn't the jungler is the mid. I'm correct on this. That's a correct assumption. Habois turns out to be the jungler, and Scotty turns out to be the mid lane for the enemy team in this game. That's not what surprised me. What surprised me, and this is something I have to come to grips with very quickly in match, and you'll see me come to grips with this, is that Ares is the solo and Hercules is the support, which is not something I was prepared for. I had assumed that Ares would be the support and Hercules would be the solo. This is a fairly understandable assumption given their classes, but this is not how it turned out. And I have much more to say about Hercules when we get to that point, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But this is where I'm starting to think about the build. I know I'm going to go War Flag. I know I'm going to go Gauntlet of Thebes. I'll explain more about why I know I'm going Gauntlet of Thebes, but you'll notice me right away. I'm rushing to build. I am getting my items down as quickly as possible because what I really want to do is run to solo lane and throw a plant down. I grab multi-potions because those are personally my preference for Sylvanus. He doesn't exclusively need healing. He doesn't exclusively need mana. He needs a little bit of both. I buy multi-potions, and then I immediately run to the solo lane. Now, a lot of the time, and you're actually going to see this in a little bit here, your allies might get confused. They might ping you. They might complain a little bit. It's understandable. It's not necessarily too rare to have someone be like, oh, you're on the wrong side. They'll assume for the sake of argument that you've just mistaken what side you're on because the two sides look the same on the map. So if I was on the orange side, it would look like I was going the right direction. People, when they do this, they're very rarely doing it out of malice. They're just genuinely concerned you're confused. And you'll also notice, going off that moment, because that's not really a big deal, Once I drop the mid lane Verdant Growth, I walk to the green buff. If you're fast enough, you can do this, because you'll notice just right now, I should probably move my mouse so you can see my lower bar a little bit better, but you'll notice Verdant Growth is off cooldown. You'll notice my mana is fully restored. You'll also notice I'm standing right here, and when I throw the Verdant Growth, I am literally in melee range. This is why I can pick up those seeds right away, which helps me have max mana by the time I re-enter the lane. Now you'll also notice, now that the seeds are dealt with, we've killed the green buff, we've moved on to the purple buff, I still have Hog, despite the fact that Verdant Growth is off cooldown. This is because Verdant Growth, and I actually put that there because when I was actually recording this, I mentioned this at the time during the recording, but Verdant Growth has a 16-second cooldown. Even if you threw a Verdant Growth, hit all 3 of the purple buff minions, and got the 3 seeds, that's only a 1.5 seconds off of a 16-second cooldown. It takes 10 seconds, approximately, to go from the purple buff to this point in the lane where you start throwing auto attacks, right? It's a 10-second trip from purple to here, this specific point of left lane. I would still have an approximate 3 to 4 seconds left on Verdant Growth's cooldown, and while that doesn't sound like a big deal, it can be really important depending on the enemy team composition. Now, if you prefer to spend the 50 gold, the 100, if you prefer to spend the money on a potion and just keep 50 gold for yourself, that's fine. But personally, I prefer to use Hog because not only is it slightly faster in the clear, so we actually get to lane a little faster, but it also ensures that Verdant Growth is ready for me to throw at the front line, and that I have the mana. Now, before I continue the video, it's also very important to understand that Verdant Growth reduces protections, so hitting the enemy front minions with this as quickly as possible actually has a relatively impressive effect on the fight, and you'll actually notice this right away. So I throw my Verdant Growth right away. I'm poking the minion wave. I'm trying to poke somebody here. I wind up poking Hercules. And this is something that I'm going to pause one more time really quick to talk about, because this is a huge advantage of Sylvanus that nobody talks about. Okay, when we're talking about poking for minion aggro, this is exactly what they're talking about. You hit somebody just specifically to grab minion aggro. But because Sylvanus' auto attacks are AoEs, you can do this while still hitting the wave. I poked Hercules entirely unintentionally, but entirely naturally, by just auto-attacking the front line. And you'll actually see me attack the front line for a little bit longer before I switch to the back line, because the primary point of attacking the front line with Sylvanus is specifically to poke usually the front line, who usually stands pretty close to the front half of the wave, and is very easy to poke with Sylvanus' auto-attacks. Why does this matter? Because everyone else in the game needs to spend mana to achieve the same effect. Now, the effect I'm talking about is damaging minions and getting minion pulling aggro, right? Poking the enemy god, pulling that minion aggro, and damaging the wave. Everyone else needs to use an ability for this. Not Sylvanus, because of his AoE autos. I can do this for free. I can do this without even doing anything unusual. I just had to attack the front line of the enemy's wave, and Hercules, because he naturally wanted to attack that front wave as well, walked right into it. Which is pretty inevitable for any enemy support trying to clear the front line. It's very effective, happens very often, is totally free, and then you pull the minion aggro, and here I am attacking the front line a little bit. I poke Hercules again, and once... Now, I switch with Sylvanus very specifically. You'll notice that, actually, if I go back slightly, I switch... Ooh, I went back a little too far. If you pay very close attention, I switch right after the first frontline minion dies. I throw the Verdant Growth here. I hit them a little bit. I'm trying to hit Jingwei. She backs up. I switch to Hercules just by moving myself, not my cursor. You'll notice that this minion dies here, right? That is an enemy minion. I hit Hercules intentionally, and then I switch to the back line because I needed to hit Hercules again. I'd lost minion aggro, and I keep on pressing that. Okay? That is extremely important. I stopped hitting the front line of the wave when the first one died, because the back line had 3 targets, the front line now only had 2. So once that first minion dies in the front line, I deliberately go out of my way to throw an auto attack at Hercules to maintain minion aggro, and then I switch to the back line. That was not accidental. That was fully intentional. Now, at this particular point, Hercules is in a position to push me. This is intentional on his part. He wants to psych me out. Now, possibly he will push me towards Jingwei. I I don't care. Consider my position right here. I'm on the verge of hitting level 2, which will give me my wisps, which will heal me. We've cleared a little faster than they have. And I don't know this right at this moment because those last 2 minions are still alive. But the enemy team winds up not hitting level 2 after clearing the wave. Behold. And now he's trying to scare me. He's trying to psych me out. He's just using psychology here. He's trying to get me to back up. I just don't. I don't care if he pushes me. Jingwei isn't going to be hitting hard enough at this point. I have 5 stacks on War Flag at this point, so Shi Blanca is auto-attacking more frequently. His auto-attack speed is higher at this point than Jingwei's, hands down. I just don't care if he pushes me. And this is something that I want to address because I have seen the theory occasionally. It crops up on such things as the Smite Reddit sometimes, that Hercules is someone that Sylvanus doesn't want to see. Sylvanus doesn't care. I'll offer you more evidence of this in the future. There's a very specific moment I want to talk about in the future that really demonstrates why Sylvanus isn't at a disadvantage with Hercules. He just isn't. He doesn't care. But we'll get to that in a minute. So the enemy team, and this actually surprises me a little bit, I actually will wind up aggressing after this wave because of this, but the enemy team is still level 1 at this point, the enemy duo lane. So I'm just, trying to get my poke. Hercules wanders in again. I was actually trying to get Jingwei here. Hercules was accidental. I just take advantage. And then I aggress. And I aggress because they're still level 1 at this point. We're already level 2. And I'm just trying to get a kill. Now, this is actually really significant. We don't get a kill here because I activated Frenzy too late. I should have activated that a couple of seconds earlier. I would say 3 to 4 seconds earlier. I activated that too late. If I'd activated that a little bit earlier, we might have been able to kill Jingwei here. I was late on that one. There's just no two ways around it. That was a late usage of Frenzy. I mean, we still push them back. It works out because the Jingwei actually backs. She goes around to this corner and backs as we're clearing this, which achieves, like I've said before, it achieves roughly the same thing. Now, the hesitation here is because I wasn't sure that Shi Blanca was going to follow me, which is something that happens occasionally. If you're a support main, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Occasionally, the ADC has no idea what they're doing and doesn't follow you into the jungle camps. The Shi Blanca is paying attention. He knows what's going on. He follows me, and that's great. So we clear a wave, and right at this point, I'm just trying to psych out the Hercules so Shi Blanca can clear that really quick, and we can go get the Harpies. That is purely what that was, and it worked. He backed up. Of course he would. He's by himself. Jingwei comes around the corner because she's flown back using her passive. That's fine, but she had to back, and now she's level 2 still, and we're about to hit level 3. So we clear the wave. I walk into that one, which I didn't need to be honest. And I'm now level 3. I grab my pull, and at this point, now right here, when Hercules is coming around to attack me, up until he auto-attacks me, I was really concerned about him. I didn't want him pushing Shi Blanca into Jingwei because I didn't know if maybe the enemy jungler was here, right? That's my first thought. He's literally walking. You can actually see, if I go back, hold on. We'll start from this point. We clear the wave, and then I see Hercules wandering around right here. I grab my level 3. He's still here, right? Now, he walks along this way. I'm concerned. What's up? They're at a disadvantage because the Jingwei is still level 2. Is there a jungler here? This is my first assumption, which is correct. This should always be your first assumption. Whenever the enemy support does something wonky like this, assume their jungler is nearby. Then he auto-attacks me. Now, at this particular point, I make a very interesting decision. It's a little bit risky, but I have 3 stacks on War Flag, and Shi Blanca is a level up on Jingwei because she backed. I decide to aggress, because even if there's a jungler, if we can at least take the Jingwei, I can keep the Shi Blanca roughly in balance. Now, this actually becomes very interesting, but I throw my healing out there so I can heal up, and then I go after the Jingwei, right? Clear that wave, back up because Shi Blanca backed up, and then we press because the Shi Blanca is clearly committed at this point. I pull her in, we go for the damage, the minion, backs her up, and then at this particular point, oops. Now, when the Hercules let me actually back up 10 more seconds. When the Hercules pulls in the Xbalanque, I'd up until that point been really concerned, but the Hercules pulls in Xbalanque, he's nearly full. Nearly full health, nearly full mana. This is partially to do with Warflag. Warflag, heals allies 18 health and mana every 3 stacks. That's great. Every 3 assists. Lovely, but at this particular point, Hercules, at less than half health, has just pulled in a nearly full health, nearly full mana Xbalanque. I just commit. I'm just going to commit at this point because he's full up. He does kind of back up a little bit there, but we are looking fully for committing at this point. And I know if I can hit a really sweet pull, we got to kill here, I got to dodge. Because at this point, hold on, you can actually see where I realize that I'm in a dangerous position. Watch this. I'm aggressing, I'm attacking. And then suddenly, I become very keenly aware, right at this point, I become aware of the fact that what Hercules is doing right here, what he's specifically doing, is he's trying to line up a pull. He's trying to get me under tower. And at this particular point in time, yes, I've got 500 health. It's still likely to kill me at this point. So I immediately go into defense mode. I'm backing up. I'm trying to get out of there. I barely dodge this, right? It was a good attempt by the Hercules. I try to pull him in exchange because if I can pull him, he dies. I miss. It's fine, right? So we're going to go on ahead and clear this wave while trying to maintain a healthy distance away from Hercules. Now, really quickly, I do want to talk about that, me looking at the scoreboard there. What I'm looking at the scoreboard at this point, I've already told you ahead of time that the Habwa and the Skadi are the jungle and mid lane respectively, but at this point in time, because I was expecting the jungler to show up at some point here, and they didn't, so I'm trying to figure out who is the jungler, right? Because right now, I'm seeing Skadi in mid lane, and I'm thinking to myself, is Skadi their jungler? Or is Skadi their mid lane? Is she supposed to be there? Are we not in danger? Is Habwa or their jungler coming in? And I see just from the eye of the jungle that Habwa must be their jungler. Okay, that's fine. I still don't know where he is, but you'll actually see very shortly, and I'm going to talk about this when you see this. Right here, now I heard this call out enemies in the right jungle, and you can see right up here a couple of pings. Here's Skadi in the mid lane. With the scoreboard check, I confirmed that Skadi was their mid lane. I knew Habwa was their jungle, and based on both Janus saying enemies in the right jungle and these pings, I am assuming for the sake of argument that Habwa is in right jungle. So I know for at least the next 15 or so seconds, I am free and clear to aggress. I move forward, Xbalanque moves forward, and I'm actually briefly concerned there that Habwa is behind, but he is not. I grab my seeds. I actually get pulled in here because I was more concerned about the seeds. I wasn't paying attention. That is a complete goof on my part, but it turns out okay. I heal myself back up. And at this point, I'm paying attention to the mini-map. Now, I throw that plant down because at this particular point, if you look at my and Xbalanque's mana right now on the far left, we're at half mana, right? Not bad. But by throwing down that plant, by the way, that's a great place to put plants because most conflicts happen on your side. Your ADC is typically going to be on your half of the midway point in the lane. So putting it there very specifically allows your hunter, your ADC, or most allies actually to clear the wave safely while getting MP5. So I'm going to put that down there because it does need to grow, and I know by the time we're done clearing the purple buff, it'll be mature, and we can get MP5 while clearing the next wave, which will bring our mana back up to where we kind of want it to be. Right, and at this point I've blasted all my multi-potions because of all that poke I took, not only from Hercules but from the tower. We return to lane, here's the fully grown flower. We go on ahead and we just settle down in here and we wipe out the wave. Well, getting mana back, right? And at this particular point, I have Frenzy back up, and I still haven't seen Habwa, but I know Arachne is in the left jungle. You can actually see her right there near the left harpies, so I know it's a pretty safe bet to aggress, right? She's on her way even, right? We're in a really good spot. She actually winds up turning around, but I wasn't paying enough attention to that at the time. I'm still convinced at this point she's very invested in the left jungle. This doesn't turn out badly, but I am at this point still under that impression, because obviously I've turned my attention away from the minimap towards what's going on in the lane. So we're clearing the lane, and I'm looking to aggress pretty soon. Okay? That is what I'm looking for. I go forward for my seeds. My initial reason was the seeds, but I decided to just keep on pressing forward. I go for the grab on Hercules. I miss. I dodge the pull because I know that's what he was lining up for. I heal Xbalanque, and we back up. I go for the seed. Xbalanque reads that wrong. He goes forward a little bit. We pull back. I check the minimap again at this point. Arachne's gone. I don't know where Habwa is. but then the Hercules just commits on me. Now, this is a really interesting moment here because the Hercules, I'm here because the Hercules committed so hard on me, right? Behold, we go into this fight, right? I'm clearing the wave, and then Hercules, for some unholy reason, pushes me forward or towards Jingwei. Now, keep in mind, this is a huge error on Hercules' part for two reasons. First, actually, three reasons. I'm going to be even more hyper-specific. First, I'm the support. I generally want to be here, in the middle of their lane, in the middle of their group. It's where I want to be, as a support. This is free real estate for me. Second, I have the Scepter. It doesn't hit hard, but it does hit. Combine that with my auto attacks and Chiblanque's auto attacks, and that can add up to quite an impressive amount of increased damage. But the third really serious issue, and this is the biggest mistake that Hercules made here, Chiblanque and I are level 5. He and Jingwei are still only level 4. We have ults. They don't. And this is when I decide I'm going to full commit. We're going to go in here, we're going to ult, we're going to throw everything. I'm going to use my pull right out of my ult because that is underutilized for Sylvanus. I used my frenzy at the appropriate time, and Chiblanque picks up my Q, absolutely cleans up. Now, there was a mild risk at this point that we'd get ganked, or more likely, counter-ganked. It didn't happen here. The reason why it didn't happen here, and I didn't mention this when I was originally recording because obviously I didn't see this at the time, but having retrospectively watched the video back, it is very obvious that the reason why Hobwall wasn't coming over here is because mid lane was getting absolutely decimated, right? So Hobwall was very likely on his way to mid lane, but I was concerned at this point of a counter gank. We still committed to this because I still wanted this. Primarily at this particular point, I figured, we've got to grab something for that win. I don't want to just get that dual lane double kill and not get anything out of it. But the Hobwa never shows up, so I'm comfortable enough at this point just going for the Harpies at this point. We do a little bit of damage to the wave, go for the Harpies. It's a great time. And then it's shortly after this, actually right away, quite frankly, that I go back and grab my Gauntlet of Thebes, right? And now what I'm looking to do at this point is switch over to the... yes, I increased my Frenzy instead of buying Sentry Ward. It's fine. It's better that way because it reduces the cooldown. But anyways, I am now heading to mid lane, and I want to head to mid lane very specifically at this point because Chiblanque is now very decently ahead of Jingwei, and I want him to stay that way. And the best way to ensure Chiblanque stays ahead is by not being in lane. So I'm at this point trying to lure in Hercules at this particular juncture. And what I've been checking the scoreboard for was enemy lifesteal, which isn't high enough yet, but I wanted to see if there was any kind of indication of what their future build would be. But, that's where we are for that. So, wander on through, we're just clearing camps, pretty standard mid lane stuff, nothing really surprising here. It's what you would normally expect to do. Aggress a little bit here, push this up. Loki gets ganked. It happens. But we decide to follow the, well, alright. I assumed, for the sake of argument, Giannis was going to rotate right. I was correct. But we're going to head over to right lane to see what we can do over here. Arachne's almost dead at this point. And so we come over here, and I'm just right here just trying to confirm kills right now. Make sure that the Hobwa doesn't leave. Janus picks up the Hobwa. That's exactly what we need. And then I stop for a little bit of poke on the totem. I don't commit too hard on this, primarily because I see that Hercules has gone to mid lane, and I need to go with Janus to make sure that it stays protected. If Hercules wasn't in mid lane, I probably would have stayed to finish the totem. But, Hercules is there. I need to be there for Janus, and then we just go for the damage buff once we've cleared that wave, because they went for theirs, so it's a good time to do so. And then off we go, right? So we return to mid lane. We're, just going to go on ahead about our normal clearing activities. And, at this particular juncture, where See, I was going to go back to the speed buff for a second, but I decided, I need mana. Arachne doesn't need help. See, I think about it again because I'm debating with myself, should I help Arachne with that speed buff, but I ultimately decided not to. Um, I actually didn't pick up, I missed this, but I can see it, again, retrospectively, that Scotty went left. I should have warned Xiblanque about the possibility she was rotating to the left for a gank. Didn't occur to me. I didn't see her go in there somehow. I missed that little point. I was looking at the mini-map and didn't notice her going in to the jungle. But, now we're going to go on ahead and, actually at this point, at that particular movement there with Janus going into the jungle, I thought he was going for the Scorpion. I really did. And I was fully prepared to tank that for him. I'm at full health. I'm at full mana. I can tank that. That's not a huge deal. But he doesn't go for it. I also want to point out something else really quick here. And this is specifically because of my 3 assists at this point, but I want you to notice that I am level 8, the Hercules, the enemy support, is level 7. This isn't just because of the assists. I'll go into this in more detail, but I have not needed the back since going back from my Gauntlet of Thebes. I have not been back to the fountain. Sylvanus doesn't need to, right? I just restored my mana using the plant I'd put under tower earlier in the, at the beginning of the match. Great stuff. And at this particular point in time, I'm just looking to absorb some golden experience off of assist stacks. I'm looking to build up my Gauntlet of Thebes, and this is a really big reason. This is actually a great conversational point here before we get into this whole fight right here. The reason why Gauntlet of Thebes works so well on Sylvanus is because once you pull even slightly ahead, and you've built properly, your sustain will ensure that you're just kicking around in a lane long enough to absolutely guaranteed stack that Gauntlet of Thebes as absolutely quickly as possible. Now, this is actually why Gauntlet of Thebes is so powerful on Sylvanus, is as slow as Gauntlet of Thebes typically is in Conquest, or just a build in general, because it does need to stack. For Sylvanus, it's less of a concern, because unlike most supports, who at some point have to back to restore their health and mana, buy items, etc., Sylvanus only really needs to go back when he needs items, right? Earlier, like I mentioned, I restored my mana underneath the tower. Most other supports would have just gone back to restore that mana and bought items at the same time. I didn't need to. I just stood under tower on that plant, and up my mana went. As a result, I was able to stay in lane and keep on getting assist stacks for the Gauntlet of Thebes, which other supports, they would have gone back to Fountain. That would have been time in the Fountain away from minions. They wouldn't have gotten assist stacks. They would have had to travel back to lane. That would have been more time wasted not getting stacks. Sylvanus just doesn't care. He can stay in lane basically indefinitely with very little help. As a result, building stacks on Sylvanus takes less time because he isn't losing time to backing to the Fountain. Right? Now, something else I want to talk about while I'm paused here is Habwa is initiating on Janus and I right now because he sees Hercules and Scotty right there in mid lane. He expects them to be able to come in and help him out. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad decision. Even if he knows that Arachne is at the tier 1 tower coming in, this is still theoretically, it starts as a 2v1 in our favor. Hercules and Scotty comes in, it's a 3v2, and then Arachne comes in late, it's a 3v3. Now, he's basically gambling on the probability that he can deal enough damage by blowing his full kit to hopefully, in his mind, probably eliminate the Janus here, and then it becomes a 3v2, or at least get the Janus low enough to, take out, for one of his allies to take out, and maybe they win the fight or something. That's his plan. Not a bad plan. I want to show you my reaction to him waltzing in here and initiating. My reaction is an ult, and then I back up and turn around. Right, I'm immediately looking to protect the Janus. Now, the reason why I ulted here very specifically, and this should have been a red flag for the Habwa, right now we're still in a 2v1 scenario. I want to blast out as much damage as possible, but I don't need to be looking at Habwa for that. My wisps are a 360 degree, they're a circular area around me that they affect, so I don't have to be looking at him to affect him with wisps, which is at this point my available damage because I've already used Verdant Growth. So I turn around so I can better protect the Janus, I can see what's going on here with what the Janus is. I'm basically, at this point, looking to the Janus to try to figure out what he wants to do. I can see Arachne obviously coming in here. I'm expecting, quite correctly, as you'll see in a couple of seconds, I'm correctly assuming that Hercules and Scotty are coming in. I used my ult to inflict as much damage on Habwa as possible. I want to unload all of my damage on him as quickly as possible, so I'm turning to the Janus to see what he's going to do. He turns around, I go with him, Habwa engages, I use Wisps. Now, it is at this point, apparently, that Janus decides he's going to commit because they went through his portal. Here we go, he blasts his way through, he hits Habwa with the ult, we clean him up, and now it's a 3v2. Now, at this point, Arachne is going after Hercules more as a matter of form. I'm not even sure she's necessarily aware that Janus is about to get killed by Scotty, but Scotty right now is making the absolutely correct decision. Okay? Whenever someone in a fight dies this early in the game, keep in mind, again, we're under 5 minutes. I'm sorry, we're under 10 minutes. Everyone's under level 10. It's still pretty early in the game. Habwa just died. Now, what Scotty is trying to do is make that worth. She's trying to kill the Janus, and this is going to accomplish two things for her. First off, this is going to lock in Arachne in the mid lane in theory. Since part of a jungler's responsibilities is to take over a lane whenever that laning person dies, if there's a need to. For example, minions are barreling down lane and no one's there to defend the lane. The jungler is supposed to come in, clear the wave, go back to the jungle. It gives the jungler a little bit of farm, it prevents the tower from taking damage. It's one of the things that junglers are supposed to do. So if she kills, if Scotty kills Janus here, she's expecting that Arachne will remain in lane. Since we're looking at the minion waves about to meet, we have one wave under tower that's going to get cleared pretty quick, and then the enemy wave will be pushing down into our wave. But since Scotty will be alive to take out our wave, then she would expect that the Arachne would come into mid lane and, you know, defend that lane, which would give Habwa time to respawn and hopefully get back into his jungle and maybe make a recovery. That is what the Scotty is doing here. She could go after the Arachne, but that's less likely to happen. Arachne's in pretty good health right now. I'm between her and Arachne. Not likely to happen. Now, the Arachne's going after the Hercules because the Hercules, first off, has lower health. You probably saw right before he left screen. Second off, he's a lower level. So Arachne's more likely to pick up that Hercules. So that's what she's going after that for. Again, she might not be aware of the fact that Janus is in trouble, but right now, as a support, I'm not worried about Arachne. She's 2 levels higher than Hercules. Hercules is building support. He's not really going to be that scary in terms of damage. I need to save Janus to make sure that Scotty's plan here doesn't come to fruition. So this is my immediate responsibility right here. This is my immediate priority, and I stop her. I just root her. She did not have her ult up, which is great, because if she had her ult up, Janus probably still would be dead. But I'm able to stop her from chasing him under tower. He lives. Arachne gets back out after being unable to kill Hercules. He's a support. No one's really surprised. She does some really great poke to him. Now I'm harassing him. I'm just basically fooling around at this point. I'm just trying to scare him off. I'm not serious about trying to kill him there. That whole trying to pull him in, that was just to try to spook him. It wasn't serious. I was never going to be able to kill him at this point. Let's be real. Janus comes back. We're looking for, you know, stuff like that. We're looking for all of the usual farming sources. It's just a beautiful time. He clears, you know, we clear this. Yay, we're going to go for the damage buff right afterwards. And now, originally, I'm going to gank Jingwei, but I realize at about this point that there's no point to that. She's not far enough on our side of the field, so I just help Janus with his buff. I'm not going to be able to gank Jingwei. I make a move at this point. Now, I make a move at this point because very specifically, I know for one wave, Janus is fine, right? Habwa just respawned. He's not even in the jungle, and when he does go into the jungle, he's not running right to mid. Scotty backed. I saw her back. She's not going to be there for that wave in time, so that's fine. So because of these two reasons, I know for a fact Janus is fine. So I'm moving to the left lane for a gank. Now, I don't move to the right lane because I can already see that Arachne is there, and she's going to be trying to apply pressure there, and very likely that's where Habwa is going to go. So right now, at approximately this point, I've made a mental note. I'm going to try to gank Jingwei, get Xiblanca even farther ahead. If that fails, I'm going to right lane, unless something else happens. But this is why I'm heading to left lane. I know Janus is guaranteed fine for one more wave. Scotty is there. She's a little late. Janus clears the wave. You can see actually right here on the mini-map, Janus just clears the wave before, probably right before Scotty gets there. She's probably at about the tower level when he's launching his ability. He's still fine because Scotty still has to deal with that wave. And I can come over here and see if I can apply some pressure to Jingwei. I'm hoping to maybe get her killed. Doesn't happen, so instead what I'm going to do is take away the purple buff. Now this is a substitute move that I do because I can see she's under tower. I'm not level 10. I don't have blink. I'm not going to be able to go under tower and take her out. That's just not going to happen, right? But if I can take away her purple buff, then that's going to cripple her ability to combat Xbalanque in the future, give him a really great leg up, right? This is really what my move is here. Now at this point I am seeing that there's some stuff going on in right jungle, so I take this and I'm trying to figure out, should I go on the Jingwei or not? But ultimately, you know, I'm going to head left and I'm going to split a... Originally, I was going to split a wave with Xbalanque, but I saw that the Jingwei, you can probably see, actually, let me go 10 seconds into the past here. Now, Jingwei throws out some potential poke. She misses. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go into lane or not. I see she's way the hell back there. In other words, she's expecting me to gank. She's setting herself up to be in a position where if she needs to run under tower, she can. So I just decide, to hell with it, I'm going to mid lane because there's clearly stuff going down over here. In fact, Loki just dies at this point. So I'm going to rush over to mid lane at this point because I know Jingwei isn't... She's on guard. She's not going to be trying to do anything. I'm coming over here. I'm just absorbing minion damage for Janus. I'm going to just trying to make sure he's not going to die too. Loki died, so Ares is basically free to do whatever he wants. Now, I have no idea why the hell Haba was that far up. I know they just had a fight in right jungle. He had no business being there. Loki died. But Arachne, first off, has a level up on him because he's died to Janus recently. Ares should have been... Maybe he was expecting the Ares to come in and save his life. I don't know what his plan there was. He shouldn't have been there. My best guess is that he was expecting Ares to save himself. To save Haba. Haba was expecting Ares to save him. Let me put that grammatically correctly. And Ares just didn't care. That's what I'm thinking happened here. But off we go. And again, we're just back to clearing. We're back to farming. Again, standard support stuff. Janus calls that he wants the oracles. That's fine. We rotate over. We go and grab those. Again, fairly classic farming stuff. Nothing really big going on here. Just some farm. And, you know, at this point, I'm not really worried about too much. Haba just died. I'm not really concerned about ganks. Jingwei is under tower. Can't do anything with that. She just appears on the map right there, but I'm still assuming, based on my earlier interaction with her, that she's still probably under tower. Rightfully so. She's down 2 levels, for Pete's sakes. I'm poking out Hercules here. That's all this is. This is just poke. I'm not trying to hard commit on him. Obviously, he's got too much health for that to matter. Just some poke, just to kind of keep him, you know, down. At this point, I was thinking, I was thinking about backing there very specifically because, look, I have a lot of gold. I've got 2,200 gold. I could back here. There's nothing going on in mid lane, but I then see that Loki and Ares, you can see this on the minimap, Loki and Ares are boxing. And Ares is 2 levels up, and Arachne is way the hell over in left jungle. I'm concerned. I'm now moving in that direction to try to help Loki out, because right now Loki's not in a great position. So I'm going to move over there and try to help Ares out. And right now what I'm talking about there is I'm trying to figure out what Loki specifically is building and why he's having a problem. And I'm identifying the fact that he didn't build protections right away. He went into Transcendence. That's fine, but he went into Transcendence, so he's taking a lot of damage from Ares. So I come over here specifically because, look, I've got nothing else on my plate. I'm going to come over here and help Loki because he's a little bit lower down on the levels than maybe he would like to be. So I come over here. I'm whacking him. I accidentally steal a kill. This was Wisps. It happens. It was either that or it was my ult, one of the two. It happens. Wasn't intentional. But my original goal has been fulfilled. I wanted to have Ares die, ideally to Loki, but that didn't happen. But I wanted Ares to die so Loki could catch up, and now he can. Loki barely survives, but he does survive. That's all that's important. He gets to go back. He gets to build some items. He gets to warp back in, and he gets to clear some waves. Now, I'm basically just spending my time with the totem here because and at this particular point in time, it is just now that I realize we have an issue. Because look, now that we've got stuff going on in left lane, I commit to this. There's a reason why I'm committing to this. Retrospectively, I probably should have rotated slightly earlier. this should have been fine. I go ahead and full commit to the totem here because I want Loki to not have to worry about it. I finish this up, and off I go to left lane. Right? Properly speaking, I should have just left it where it was, let Loki finish leveling that or hitting that, and then hit left. Now it turns out that my team is fine, so I switch to farming, right? Janus isn't here. Now I'm basically taking over Arachne's usual position here. Janus isn't in lane. I'm taking over the wave clear. Theoretically, this is something junglers would do. Arachne clearly just came back from backing. That's fine. No one else is here. This is a very rare moment where, as a support, I am free and clear to take the wave for myself, because Janus is clearly not over here. It's a 2v1 with Jingwei in left lane. She's already underleveled. I'm not worried about it. So Scotty comes up. I don't want to fight Scotty because I'm going to lose that fight. I'm a level 12 support versus level 10 mid, which, interestingly, and again, I want to point this out again, because this is a key component of Sylvanus, I'm level 12. Okay? I am a higher level than everyone in the game except for Xiblanque and Janus. Now, part of this does have to do with the fact that I just solo cleared a wave, that I just stole Ares from Loki unintentionally. That is contributing factors. But a lot of this has to do with the fact that I have not backed since getting Thebes. I mentioned this before, but I still haven't been back to the fountain at this point. I've just been floating around, mostly with Janus, but sometimes by myself, floating around, getting kills, getting experience, getting gold, minion kills, minion assists, gold, experience. I've been getting a lot of that because I've not been back. I have wasted no time going back to fountain and then traveling back to a lane. I've just been in lane the whole time, or jungle. And it's starting to snowball. And that's really what makes Sylvanus powerful. He doesn't need to back. He can be there basically indefinitely as long as you don't do anything insane. And now at this point I'm rotating left. I'm rotating left very specifically here because I see Hercules over here, and I'm assuming Habois is going to come over. This is my estimation. Now, why am I assuming Habois is coming over? Because this is actually a very serious question. It's something that not everyone is necessarily going to know. But the reason I'm assuming Habois is coming over at this point, actually I can go ahead and unpause at this point, is because if you see, and I actually am incorrect here, because this is actually really key. I assumed that Habois was going left because my teammates were on their side of the field. I mean, they're pushing the tower for Pete's sakes. They're diving under tower. Usually, this is a great thing for junglers, and this is the kind of situation a jungler would want to take advantage of to try and get a spicy gank. However, Habois goes right lane. I'm not sure why. At this particular point in time, Scotty knew I was in approximately mid lane, and probably, or rightfully, should have called that. We have 2 enemies in left lane, and 3 of my people in left lane, right? Habois, normally, well, what most junglers are going to do is they're going to see that, and they basically have 2 options. A lot of them are going to pick, okay, we've got 2 allies being pressed by a 3v2. Let me go over there and even the odds. Maybe pick up some kills really quick. The other option is to go into the opposite side of the field and try to make something happen there. Alright? Now, whether or not this is a good or bad decision really depends on the circumstances. Obviously, my allies are diving under tower right now, which is a really great thing for junglers. The thing that really makes this a poor decision on Habois' part very specifically, because Habois isn't by default wrong here, okay? It can be a viable strategic decision to go to the other side of the field. The issue here is that Loki is close enough to his tower that that is a very hard gank to work. It is very unlikely that Loki will die from that gank. It is very likely going to be a wasted gank at this point, right? It's just not terribly likely to succeed. That's the error, okay? And even then, you can see where Loki, while I'm approaching here, you can see Loki not dying. I mean, he gets really close, but he doesn't actually die. And then I'm coming in literally from behind. I wipe this basically. I miss my pull. It doesn't really make a difference. My ult finishes her off. That's fine. That's not a kill steal because Xiblanque was not going to get her killed. He wasn't going to dive that deep. I couldn't stay under tower much longer without dying. I'm fine. He's fine. He got a kill off the Hercules. I got the kill off of Jingwei. Arachne died, yes, but we got 2 for her, so she's fine. Now you'll actually notice, again, Hobwa did accomplish taking the tower, don't get me wrong. Right tower's gone, which is a positive for their team, but his goal there as a jungler was absolutely to kill Loki, because if they killed Loki, they would have gotten the tower anyways. Taking the tower in this situation is a consolation prize for what they didn't get, which was Loki's life. Okay, Loki, again, which I was anticipating just based on reading the situation while approaching left lane, because this is exactly what I was thinking about at the time. Loki was likely to get out of that situation alive, and so he did. Yes, he lost a tower. Is that a big deal? No. The score is 11-3 total. We lose a tower. That's not a big deal. We are ahead by 3,000 gold approximately. We're ahead pretty consistently across the board by 1 to 2 levels. Loki losing a tower isn't that big of a deal. It doesn't make a big difference. I don't care, especially since we have a catapult here, and we just use this catapult to take the tower. And I actually turn around once the Jingwei dies, because it doesn't immediately register for me, and we just take this tower. Now, you can see me pulling back immediately, because what I'm concerned about at this point, I don't see Ares, I don't see Hobwa, I don't know if Ares' teleport is up. Could we have pressed forward and attacked the tier 2? Possibly. But the risk remained that Hobwa was going to pop out of absolutely nowhere and smack us down, or that Ares could teleport to left tower and smack us down. Whether or not they would do so under these circumstances, I don't know, and to this day I'll never be able to tell you, but it's a genuine concern of mine at this point, and I'd rather not die. I mean, consider, right now I'm 2 levels higher than Hercules, Xiblanca is 2 levels higher than Jingwei, and we're both probably, well, I'm close to level 13 at this point. I'm assuming Xiblanca is pretty damn close to 15 as well, so what I would rather do is play it safe, clear some stuff. He goes for the Harpies. I was going to go for the jungle in general. Fair enough. You know, whatever. I help him clear the Harpies. You can actually see right here in left lane that Ares does teleport to left tower, so I was correct on that. Hobwa doesn't come over, for reference, if you're curious. Hobwa just doesn't care. He's busy doing other things. Ares teleports over. There's Hobwa. He's checking to see if we're still there. We're not. But he's not concerned. Now, the thing when I said Hobwa doesn't care, Hobwa's looking for the kills. He's not looking to defend the lane. Ares teleported over to defend the lane. Hobwa just wanted to see if we were still kicking around there. Now, I want to talk about my build really quick for a second here. I wouldn't normally build Lotus Crown against this team composition. I've talked about this quite extensively. They have a three physical combination. Normally, this would mean I would build Sovereignty as my third item, under normal circumstances. But because Hercules is the support and Ares is the solo lane, this means that Ares is going to be building a bit more damage in general. And actually, if you've been paying attention to the scoreboard, Ares' second item is Bancroft's Talon, Magic Power. Hercules, being a support, is building Pure Protections, or pretty close to it. So he's not really bringing a lot of physical damage to bear. So even though it's a 3 physical comp, because of the way they're playing, because of the roles they're playing, they're not actually doing normal amounts of magic and physical damage. So I actually build Lotus Crown to kind of adjust for that. Bring some extra magic protections via my healing, and maybe drop the physical protections a little bit because their support is physical and their solo is magic, rather than the usual reverse. That's why I'm building Lotus Crown at this particular point. Now, I went back at this particular point because I literally had nothing else to do. Once Xiblanca and I backed, there's nothing really in left jungle to do except possibly get the damage camp of the Oracles, which I could have done. I wasn't in great condition, but again, I was concerned Hobwa was rotating over, so there was the very real risk that if I went into the jungle past those Harpies, I would have been killed by Hobwa. So I didn't want to go into the jungle. There wasn't really anything else going on in left lane. I wasn't going to be able to smoothly transition to middle lane or right lane without putting myself very much at risk, even with healing. So I just backed. I needed items at that point anyways. I had like 4,000 gold or something like that. Actually, let's really quickly go 10 seconds. I had very nearly 4,000 gold when I went back. I needed to spend gold, so I went on ahead and spent my gold. I'm going for Shogun's Kusari here. I increase my blink once I get it. Now, this is actually really another really significant thing. I backed not only to buy items, but primarily to buy my relic. I'm level 12. I needed my relic. I needed blink for initiation purposes. Alright, that is one of the really big reasons I went back. Now, I see Hobwa still poking around in left lane. He's trying to avenge his comrade's death. He's basically trying to make up for the fact that he was in right lane trying to kill Loki and failed to kill Loki. That's instead of helping left lane. That's basically what he's there for. It's guilt. So I'm going to rotate over because I'm just at this point concerned about keeping Xbalanque alive. It's a 3v2 as far as I know. It does wind up being that way because here's Ares using his ult on Xbalanque, who beats out. This is a huge commit. I see Janus is behind me, so I go on ahead and keep attacking. I keep aggressing because I see Janus behind me. Okay? So we're going to hopefully make something happen here, and I'm only really committed. That was a pure mistake on my part. I was too close to the wall. I got blinked through. That's fine. Janus picks up the Ares. That's fine. There's Loki. I'm assuming he teleported. I wasn't expecting that, actually, to be completely honest. The Loki teleporting in and ulting is a pro-gamer move. That was a great decision by his part. Now, he makes this decision. You might be wondering, why was he so late? If you look at the mini-map on the right lane, you'll see that he has arranged it so his wave is very likely to punch through the Ares wave and finish that tower, thereby evening the towers and putting him where he should be at this particular point in time. So that's why. So this is a great decision by his part. He cleans up over here. It's an absolutely fantastic time. Everyone's happy. He's going to clean that purple buff up for the golden experience. I let him do this because I'm concerned about the tower at this point. I want to make sure that this doesn't take too much damage. I'm wiping out the wave. Again, Xbalanque isn't here, so it's not like he's losing out too much. Now, I press forward here so I can weaken the next wave. You'll actually see me work on this wave until a minion dies, and then I just leave because I don't want to steal too much. And I grab my seeds, and I'm just out of here. I don't even attack anymore. I just grab the seeds and go. I don't want to steal too much of Xbalanque's farm. I just want to give his wave the advantage, so that way he doesn't have to, like, worry. And again, so he doesn't have to worry about the wave. He goes for the purple buff because Loki didn't finish it off, which was the smart move. I think Loki only took the smalls for the golden experience, and then left the big one so Xbalanque could come in later and grab that. I'm pretty sure that's what happened there. That's why Xbalanque stopped by to take that. But Xbalanque has the ability to clear that purple buff without concern because I weakened the enemy wave down. His wave is pushing up. He has time to go and farm a little bit if he really wants to stay ahead of Scotty. I'm sorry, not Scotty. To stay ahead of Jingwei and do whatever he wants. Now, I come over here because I see an opportunity to save Loki from Scotty. Loki went on to Scotty. Not sure why. We're trying to get her killed. I use Wisps. I actually miss my Wisps and clean up Scotty when I see Loki go up in the air. It's about the best I can do is just to make sure that it's a trade. Now, I don't know why Ares is... Okay, I do know why Ares is committing. Ares is committing because he's got Hobwan Hercules right behind him. I've got Arachne. But I'm literally one level higher than him, and I'm 2 levels higher than Hercules at this point. Again, primarily because I haven't needed to go back yet. I'm just trying to leave... I'm fine with, this. I actually, at this point, make a really interesting decision. Now, at this point, I am aware of the fact that Xbalanque, Arachne, and Janus are here. I'm going full commit at this point. Xbalanque has just used his ult. I use my ult. I am full committing. I'm going to throw out all of my abilities at this particular point in time. I'm trying to get people killed. That is my goal right here. I only full committed at this point because Xbalanque was clearly looking for that commit himself. He used his ult. You only really are supposed to do that when you're committing, and the Xbalanque has been pretty good so far, so I just assume he's talking about the full commit like most would, and off we go. We clean them up, we get the tower, we back out of there. Right? Now, at this particular point in time, we're going, obviously, for the Gold Fury. It's a natural, conclusion. Arachne calls it. We just took their mid-tower. This is pretty standard form. We're going for this Gold Fury. We're not really concerned about interference. Jingwei could possibly threaten this, but she'd be by herself because she'd be able to outpace Scotty. So we have no issues here with this, right? Even if, just to pause it for a second, actually I don't even need to, Jingwei could fly in with her passive ability and make an attempt at that, but it would be very unlikely for her to succeed. Not really a big concern. At this point, I'm just trying to pull some farm here. I'm level 15 at this point, again, due to not only the kill that I picked up, but all these assists. And we're just going to go back to mid. We're going to do some farming. Loki isn't in any particular danger. His little ploy with the minion wave didn't work because they have, they still have the tower, but it's low enough level where anyone could just roll in and take that, so it's not really that big of a deal. It's just a matter of convenience at this point. I'm just looking to clear stuff. I'm going over to the Sheep Blanque because I'm concerned that Hobwa is going to rotate over. He does. He's behind me. I saw him in mid lane. I wasn't sure if he was going to commit to that rotate. Now I back off here. And I back off here because Sheep Blanque and Arachne, they've backed off. They're no longer in danger. Even though I'm a level ahead right now of Hobwa, I still don't want to initiate on this. I have no allies. And I know Scotty's kicking around because I just saw her in lane recently, so I know she's in the area. She's probably a damage camp at this point. That's a 2v1 situation in very short order. Yes, it would start 1v1, but it would very quickly become a 2v1 that I don't want. It's not like I hit hard. I have 30 power. I have almost full protections, right? I'm not likely to come out of that situation alive. So I don't want to initiate here. Right now and I turn around just to try to steal these. I'm not really trying to initiate. I see Scotty. She's coming in for the initiation. I'm trying to get the hell out of dodge because Hobwa's spooky. He's looking for the commit here. Janus ults in. I'm looking at possibly re-entering. Now, I make an interesting decision here. At this point, let's actually go back 10 seconds. Right, I'm retreating. Scotty's here. Hobwa's initiating on me, right? He wants to kill me because as far as he knows, I'm alone. And this is a great opportunity to finally kill me because I'm starting to get pretty scary at this point. I'm level stinking 15. I'm a higher level than everyone on their team. This is scary. This is a really scary sign for a team if the enemy support is a higher level than your whole damn team, right? That is really bad news. That is a hideously ugly indication of how badly your team is doing right now. And I'm not saying that any of the players on the enemy team are particularly bad. It's just a matter of combination of poor decisions, circumstance, bad luck, etc. Strange team composition. I'll talk about that in a bit. But at this particular point, I'm still running, and then I see right here, and I turn around for this, the ults. Janus ults. I am also seeing right here, this is the point at which I realize, because I can see them off to the left, oh, Arachne and Sheep Blanque are coming in. And I assume they're coming in to attack. After all, we're 10 kills ahead, we're 7,000 gold ahead, we're team-wise in a very strong position. So I turn around and I'm going to initiate. I have blink, I have ult, this is initiation. So I come in here, I blink in, and I initiate. I actually overshoot my blink. Ideally I would have hit Hobwa with that. I goof that. I do overshoot my blink. But here's my teammates. I'm probably going to die for this. I accept that. I die right afterwards. It's fine. I would have liked to have thrown Verdant Growth out, but they take Scotty, Hercules, and almost Hobwa for me. It's a 3 for 2. In fact, Ares dies in an unrelated incident off screen, which is great. But it's 2 for me, 2 for 1. This gives my team the ability to do whatever the hell they want at this point, because Hobwa is not going to do diddly squat, and neither is Jingwei. I finished my Shogun's Kusari. At this point, I'm trying to decide what I want to build very specifically. But right now, my death was not in vain. That was a perfectly worthy sacrifice. Again, 1 for 3, 1 for 2, technically, is a great thing. And at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what I want. I eventually decide that my best bet right now is Stone of Fall. Get some damage mitigation going there. Grab my Sentry Ward. Off I go. Stone of Fall for the win. My allies took the Pyromancer because they obviously had the opportunity to do so. I see Sheep Blanque getting into a fight and getting killed. My team continues the fight. That's fine. They approach mid lane. I'm not sure what they're doing here. I moved forward to try to possibly initiate against Hercules and Jingwei, but then I see the Ares, and then I just turn on him because I don't want him doing anything to very specifically Janus, because obviously Janus is low on health. You can see that on the far left there. Janus was in a dangerous position. Now, I don't know actually where Loki came from. I still to this day don't know what happened, where he came from, but he's in danger. I ult. This is a defensive ult. I just don't want them diving the tower and killing Loki. I get pulled by Hercules here. It's fine. It doesn't really make a big difference. And this is actually a really big, significant thing here. I actually just pull in Hercules here. I was aiming for Ares, incidentally, but this is why Hercules is not a scary thought to Sylvanus. He just isn't. Okay? A lot of people claim that Sylvanus hates Hercules because when you pull in Hercules, he can just turn it around and push you into the enemy team. That's the idea. First off, you can tell by where he gets pulled in here that he's not in a position to pull me anywhere, or push me anywhere for that matter. He just isn't in position for that. Second off, getting pushed into the middle of an enemy team as Sylvanus is a great thing because that means you get to use your wisps and damage them all for free. If you build Spear the Magus, that's devastating, potentially. So, I'm just at this point trying to defend the tower, trying to keep Loki alive against standard form stuff. Arachne comes out of absolutely nowhere, and now I got to initiate. That's fine. We're going to follow Arachne. Well, technically Arachne is initiated. I'm just following up, technically speaking. But, I'm trying to follow in. I'm not worried about Hercules. Again, he doesn't hit very hard. The two back there can probably take care of that. I just want to make sure that Arachne doesn't have an issue. I want to keep good old Jingwei low, pull her in, get the root, get rid of her. Loki's chasing Hercules through the jungle. This is actually a really questionable decision by the Loki and the Janus, considering Habwa is still alive. Habwa comes in. He starts laying down some smackdown. It's a really ugly time. Poor Loki, he plays Ring Around the Rosie, probably has 2 heart attacks, and then the fight continues. Now, I'm at this point just trying to get people out. My goal right now, hold on, let me just really quickly. I might use Frenzy here, but my goal is not to aggress. I am trying my darndest to get people out alive. Okay? My goal is not to kill anyone here. I activate Frenzy as a psychological thing. I want the enemy to see me activate this, hopefully turn around, get the hell out of dodge. Do they? Hercules does. Habwa tries to. He gets hunted down and eliminated, which is great. Hercules gets hunted down and eliminated. Not what I intended. It works out, but my intention was not to have that happen. My intention was stop the enemy from killing my allies. That is my goal there. My allies had different ideas, and were able to use me to achieve those ideas, which is great. More power to them. I love allies like that. But my goal was not to get enemies killed. I was trying to just get enemies out alive. Now, my ult here specifically so I don't get pulled in, so I can keep, using abilities and helping Arachne and Shibboleth out. At this particular point, I really, really want people to leave. They're finally actively leaving. I'm actively using abilities to help them get out. I'm trying my darndest. I pull Ares here more to scare him. And now, at this particular point, at this point, I'm shuffling around like this because I'm trying to stall, okay? I'm willing at this point to die for my allies. Shibboleth is low, Janus is low, Arachne is okay. I'm just trying to stall out so Shibboleth and Janus can leave. Shibboleth misreads this. He attacks. He attacks, and he's trying to kill the Ares. So I'm like, at this point, alright, let me see if I can get the Ares killed with me, right? Because at this point, I'm convinced I'm going to die. I don't wind up dying here, but I'm convinced I'm doomed, and I just want to take Ares with me, so that way there's something to work with. That way, if my allies, get into a fight, it's fine. But ultimately, that doesn't happen. We leave, and then there's Loki poking around back there. I'm not sure what I want to do about this right here. Right here, I'm confused. I have 2 options. I can keep leaving, because Hercules is obviously hunting me down, or I can help Loki try to kill Ares, right? But my blink is soon to be up, so I'm wondering, well, blink. And then what I'm going to wind up doing is just trying to help the Loki out. I don't wind up blinking, by the way. I just don't. I look for an opportunity. My ult isn't up, so I don't blink. But and Loki stops the attack. He leaves. It works out. But it was a very confusing moment for me in this match. Now, at this particular point, I was going to go into Stone of Fall. I realized probably I should have Pridwin first for the cooldowns. Then I'm going to go into Stone of Fall later. Cooldowns are king. Gotta get those cooldowns. Now, obviously, Loki picks up Hercules there. They're pretty likely to pick up Ares because I don't think Ares backed. Yeah, he dies here. He hadn't backed. He was still that low on health that he was before. The enemy team was trying to get the Gold Fury. I'm pretty sure they got the Gold Fury. Or Loki stole it. I can't quite remember. I think it actually is an indication here of who... I believe gold just flies at me out of nowhere. Yeah, he successfully stole the Phoenix. He killed Hercules. Janus picks up the areas that hadn't backed yet, and then they just keep on pressing with the attack, because obviously at this point they have the substantial advantage. They've just killed they literally just killed the entire enemy front line, so all that's up is squishies, right? And then, Habwa. Now, this is actually a really interesting choice, because you can see this happening 10 seconds ago. Look, Habwa's trying to push down right tower. Now, you'll notice I ignore this. And I forgot to talk about this a bit ago. But Habwa's trying to push down right lane. This is a huge mistake. Habwa's trash at clearing waves. I'm sorry, not clearing waves, clearing towers. He does not have the auto attack speed. He does not have the auto attack ability to clear towers that quickly. Can he clear towers with minions? Absolutely yes. Can he clear towers with minions at 23 minutes when he's severely underleveled compared to... Well, he's not severely underleveled, actually. But can he clear towers, with just one wave while his allies are dying at the Gold Fury? No. He should have been there at the Gold Fury. As a jungler, he should have been there. If he was a solo laner, maybe it's a different conversation. I still think he should have been there even if he was a solo laner. But he should have been in left jungle with his team trying to take Gold Fury. He's not an auto-attacking mage. He's not an auto-attacker in any capacity. He should not have been trying to take that tower. If he was a hunter, I could see this not only being not a bad idea, but working. He is not. He is a mage with ability-based kit. He should not have been trying to take that tower. It does not pan out. Now, Arachne happens to kill him, but that's just a cherry on top for us. Right? He was already making the mistake by trying to take that tower in the first place. He never should have been trying that as Habwa. Terrible decision on his part. He should have been here with his team in left jungle. And a big reason why my team won was because Habwa wasn't there. It doesn't have anything to do with really anything else. Just the simple fact Habwa wasn't there. Boom. And I don't know how that pole miss. It should have hit her, but I digress. Maybe it's lag. Maybe it's Maybelline. Now, at this particular point in time, I'm just looking to commit here because my teammates are looking for stuff. They just killed Scotty. We're trying to do some damage here. I'm trying to get some poke. I'm trying to pull people out. I fail miserably across the board. And then the enemy reinforcements arrive. We just try to leave. Arachne's pushing mid-Phoenix down. They're still chasing. So I'm okay with just doing what I call a slow chase, which is where you turn around and throw things at the enemy team as they're following you. This doesn't make your escape any better. It just makes sure that their attention is kept. Now, I get pushed back here. I'm trying to help to kill Jingwei for Arachne. Meanwhile, Xiblanque is absolutely sweeping the enemy team. Now, the reason why I wanted Jingwei dead is because between the three people there, Ares, Hercules, and Jingwei, she was the one that was going to be bringing the damage. Hercules is level 14, and he's a support. Ares is level 14, 3 levels down from Loki. He wasn't going to be bringing the damage, even as a solo laner. Jingwei, though, is only... Well, she's 3 levels down from Xiblanque, but she is level 17, which is about par for the course for our team. Loki's level 17, I'm level 17. It's not a bad level for her to be at. And as a hunter, as their ADC, she's going to bring some damage. So I very specifically wanted Jingwei dead because she was going to be the one to get people killed, not the Hercules, not the Ares. I push up on this because I kind of assume that they have, everything under control here. They do. I got a little nervous there when I turned to look at them. I was just getting really nervous. It's fine. Now, you'll notice I don't go to mid lane to help them with the Phoenix, the mid-Phoenix. The reason why is because they have a minion wave there. They don't need me. The entire enemy team is dead. Yes, Scotty's about to respawn, but the entire enemy team is dead. They have a minion wave going under the Phoenix right now. They don't need me. What I'm doing right here is I am prepping this Phoenix to be taken, right? Because, look, they've already taken that mid-Phoenix. Scotty just now shows up. They already had, they had the minions again. And I have the minions here, and then they come over, and they just really quickly sweep this because I spent the time eliminating that wave first and getting our wave under the Phoenix so we could take it. That is what I was doing there. So I'm, at this point, looking to just slap Scotty down. I'm trying to get her killed. She gets whacked by Janus. They surrender at this point. But I want you to... Actually, I can just let it run at this particular point in time. It really comes down in big part to the fact that as Sylvanus, as I've been mentioning throughout this little video, I can just stay there in lane for years. And that's a really powerful thing. You're actually going to see a really huge discrepancy, not only in my level, but in the level of numerous people on the enemy team. And there's a very specific reason for that. Let me explain. I'm actually going to go ahead and pause this here, because this is where I'm basically going to be talking about it, because it's not like I highlight anything here. I talk about it, obviously, for like 20 minutes, which is fine, but I only talk about the end game for 20 minutes in the original corrupted recording because I didn't talk enough during the game, but because I've been able to pause the game in this format, I can talk a little bit less at the end here, but I want you to really pick up on the discrepancy very specifically between myself and Hercules, a 4-level difference, and Arachne and Habwa. That is a 2-level difference, right? I also want to point out the fact that only the enemy Habwa kept up with me in terms of gold and experience. The rest of the enemy team is down on both. Why is this? Also, I want you to peep the Loki-Ares difference really quick. What happened? What happened was Sylvanus planted himself in mid lane, and I'm not using that term by accident. It's first off referential to the fact that Sylvanus is a tree, but second off, it is very descriptive of exactly what I was doing in Sylvanus. Once I hit mid lane with Gauntlet of Thebes and just didn't leave, nothing in that lane was happening that I didn't permit. Okay? Sylvanus isn't a really hyper-aggressive support. He just isn't. His primary initiation pulls the enemy to him instead of him going in. The closest thing you can do to standard initiation is blink ult in, which is fairly common amongst supports anyways. But what Sylvanus does offer is some really powerful ways of keeping the enemy from doing anything you don't want them to do. Oh, is an enemy doing something you need to stun them out of? Use a pull. Oh, is the enemy running away or running towards an ally? Root them. Reduce their protections at the same time too for kicks. Essentially, once I hit mid lane and was able to just sustain my way to infinity, Arachne really didn't need to worry about mid lane. In fact, you'll notice, if you care to go back and rewatch those particular parts of the video, you'll notice Arachne only returned to mid lane when Janus and I were getting ganked by Janus. Outside of those very specific instances, she never returned to mid lane. She stayed in the jungle the rest of the time, and she spent a lot of time in right jungle, because once I transitioned to mid lane and Arachne realized, hey, mid lane's frozen basically, there's nothing going on there. Nothing's going to happen there as long as Sylvanus stays alive in there. She went to right lane and she started ganking Ares a bunch of times. So that way the Loki could come back online and actually make a really great recovery. So because I was in mid lane basically being immortal, that took the load off of Arachne. She no longer had to worry about mid lane, and she was able to go and help Loki out instead, and it paid off. Loki wound up with a positive score. He wound up contributing some really great damage to those last few team fights. It really paid off, but that is one of the most powerful things about Sylvanus as a support. No, you can't initiate in the standard form. You do have initiation, it's just non-standard. But the really important thing to know about Sylvanus, and this is something junglers can really appreciate, is that once Sylvanus basically achieves immortality, the jungler is free to ignore whatever lane Sylvanus happens to be occupying at the time. It's just not a problem. It really isn't. So, at this particular point in time, you hit mid lane, jungler recognizes you're basically immortal, decides to go somewhere else. Now, the only reason Arachne did not go to dual lane is because the She-Belanque was ahead and just staying ahead consistently once I left lane. In fact, once again, I must reference the fact that I left lane specifically because She-Belanque was ahead. I wanted him to stay ahead, so I went to mid lane once I got my Gauntlet of Thebes. She-Belanque did a great job, maintained a great lead, did really great. Shout out to the She-Belanque for being an absolutely fantastic ADC. Maintained that lead, kept it up, really played well. Arachne didn't need to go over there, okay? Unless, again, there was a gank going on and she needed to counter gank, which is what she did twice for mid lane. She needed to counter gank mid lane, so off she went. She went to go counter gank mid lane. That's fine. That's how it goes. That is exactly what you want in life, right? Fantastic. Now, that being the case, you're still talking about very much just Arachne being able to turn all of her attention to a problem area, which in this case was solo lane. She focused on solo lane. Ares died a lot. That's why Ares is 0-9. He got slapped down. Loki was able to pull ahead, and we were all able to do really well. But this is Sylvanus' true strength as a support. He can stop a lane from deteriorating completely. He might not be able to get kills for your allies. It really depends on the situation, as you've probably seen throughout this video. But he can stop things from happening. And that's, honestly, a lot of the times, all your jungler needs. Take that responsibility off your jungler and let them be amazing. Let them go and stomp out some other fool. Mid lane wasn't doing anything. Scotty didn't have the balls. Right? She was, for most of the match, she was on pace with Janus, but I wasn't dying, and I was going to keep Janus from dying as well. It's not like Hercules was going to initiate. What was he going to do? I can just turn that around on him using my ult and wisps, right? As long as I made sure that Janus didn't die, nothing was happening in mid lane. The only time something did happen was when we wanted it to, when we won a really great team fight there and we just pushed through and grabbed some towers. But the rest of the time, I was just basically freezing that lane. Even though I wasn't intending to, I didn't even talk about it for the rest of the video for a very specific reason. I was busy just doing support things. It just so happens that any lane Sylvanus is in that he doesn't... once he gets past a certain point, he just straight up doesn't die, first off. Second off, any lane he's in, if he isn't dying, he's freezing, just inherently based on how he plays. Oh, an enemy is approaching one of your allies? Root them. Oh, an enemy is doing something that needs to be interrupted? Pull them in, get that stun. Same difference, right? That's what Sylvanus is great at. That's what makes Sylvanus, and I'll die on this hill, that's what makes Sylvanus one of the most powerful supports in the game. Consistently. Once they gave him that new passive, where he drops the seeds, his sustain got hideously ugly. It just unholy sustain. And he just can do whatever he wants. As long as it's not insanely rash. You'll notice, actually, I only died the one time when I really hard committed after getting pulled in. Now, the Hercules wanted to pull me in there because he correctly assumed his allies could kill me. And he was correct. That was a good call by Hercules. I died. The problem is that Hercules did that not knowing my allies were on their way, and that I just used the opportunity to willingly sacrifice myself to blast all my abilities out there. I could have possibly escaped, or at least given myself a reasonable chance to escape, but I made zero effort to do so. I blew my ults, I threw out my wisps, and died. And that was all my team needed. They turned it around, they picked up 2 for me, took the tower. Great time. Absolutely fantastic. No, they didn't take a tower for that. Never mind. Sorry, I was confusing my mid lane moments. But they took 2 for me, and they were able to go on and grab some stuff in the jungle. They were able to pull ahead even further. It was a really great time, but I was perfectly willing and able to sacrifice myself to give my teammates the leg up on achieving a victory in that fight. And that's something Hercules wasn't prepared for, honestly. I also want to point out the fact that Hercules' third item is Pestilence in response to me. Pestilence is not a great third item pickup here because we only have 2 magics, Janus and myself, and I'm obviously not building damage. I had 30 from Lotus Crown and that's it. And the passive from Pridwin if you want to get really picky about it. The fact that I traumatized him so much apparently that he built Pestilence as his third item speaks volumes about his concern for what I'm doing and where I'm at here. But that's what happened basically, is I was able to just stay in mid indefinitely and keep Janus alive. And Arachne no longer needed to worry. She had to counter gank twice when Habwa entered the field, right? When Habwa entered the picture and tried to make something happen at mid, that's the only time Arachne needed to come over. The rest of the time, she could go and help Loki. She could go and clear jungle farms, right? Jungle camps. No issues. And that's what I really want to emphasize with Sylvanus, is that his really huge contribution to a team isn't in his initiation. He can initiate with Blink normally. He can initiate in reverse with his pull. And it's a very powerful form of initiation that is slept on. But overall, Sylvanus' major impact is just his ability to essentially take a responsibility off of the jungle. Now, this is somewhat reliant on whether or not your jungler is doing well. In this particular case, Arachne was ahead at the time, so she was able to use that. But even if your jungler is behind, it still gives your jungler the opportunity to go and successfully maybe catch up if they're behind, right? Or something along those lines. Or get a gank against someone who they wouldn't normally succeed against. But that's really what you want happening here, okay? So that's ultimately the goal here. And that's really the true strength of Sylvanus here, right? Now, I talked about my items throughout most of the match pretty extensively. Again, when you build War Flag, you build Shogun's Kusari. That's fairly self-explanatory. You're trying to boost attack speed. I built Pridwin exclusively for the cooldowns. I don't really... For Sylvanus, the passive really acts as a shield. I don't use it for the damage. Some supports, I will use it for the damage, but in Sylvanus' case, enemies tend to hightail it pretty quick when you ult. It triggers a fear response in a lot of people for some reason. So a lot of the times you're not going to get the damage out of Pridwin's passive. It's more about the shield for me. Great item on him either way, but that is the really great benefit of Sylvanus. So with that being said, I hope you like this format more. I'll probably use this format a few more times just to kind of let everyone get used to it a little bit. I might use it all this week, see how you feel. Maybe 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks might be a better trial period. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if this is better than trying to talk about what I'm thinking mid-game, where I'm going to get distracted by things or rush a little bit. It is a problem. I know it's a problem. But with my ability to pause the match like this, maybe this will be better for this. But either way, please let me know if you prefer this format or the old format. And if you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.